So I have a question to ask all of you. In today's very electronically driven world, when we want to go from place A to place B, what is it that we resort to? We have Google Maps to guide us. Whether we know our destination, whether we want to know what are the traffic snarls along the way, whether we want to know how to navigate certain intersections, we have Google Maps to guide us. But for life's journey, what do we have? What application, what program? And in my 25 plus years of a career that I have been having, a professional career, I have not really come across a single mantra or a single app that could help me answer my queries in life. And I hope that this journey of mine will help throw some ideas of what were the tools, and there are probably many more tools that exist, but some of the tools that I use that help me recalibrate my life. So going back, I was an engineer graduating from here in 91, and 30 years ago, I was in my second year in this very place. Electrical engineering, sandwich program, Tata Motors, then the most premier engineering company to and most coveted company to join in for the sandwich program. At that point in time, what did I see in front of me? And in front of me, I was very excited since I wanted to do engineering like my father, who was a mechanical engineer and a mechanical design engineer. I had similar aspirations. So when I went in with a very lively step into Tata Motors and spent a year there, 2 durations of 6 months each, I saw different functions there. I saw how design was being done, how manufacturing was being done, and all of that. And being a young engineer, at that point in time, I realized that somehow, and I must tell you that we were as part of the control economy, and there was not too much of fundamental research and design which was happening in the engineering industry at that point. It left me with a sense of wonder, is this what I want to be doing? Will I really be able to challenge myself if I were to continue here to do my engineering at the postgrad level? And I thought, okay, fine, if that is the case, then I must go do an MS overseas. Another aspect which I observed while in my 1 year at Tata Motors was that I found that people who were in meaningful positions or positions of responsibility at the top did have some techno-commercial skills as well. That left me with another thought. So should I do an MBA after engineering instead of doing an MS? And I guess these are probably the quintessential questions which some of you have today too. Do I take up a job? Do I join a big company? Do I join a startup? Do I do an MS? Do I do an MBA? And all of that. Well, in my time, my plan A was I'm going to do an MBA as plan 1. Plan A, plan B was to do an MS. And in the meantime, definitely take up a job because I'm not sure when I will get admission. So that is what I did. I studied hard, took CAT. Year 1 of appearing for CAT, I got a couple of calls, didn't make it through. I was devastated. I thought I was the cat's whiskers. But never mind, I still stuck it around. I said, let me give it one more attempt. Took it, got calls the next year from every premier institute. And I was trying to still balance my job because I really loved the job. And my job was with Thermax. Thermax is a well-known company in Pune, but that time it was the only company which offered non-engineering or non-technical or non-design kind of jobs to engineers. And since I wanted to explore the path of doing an MBA, I said, let me try out right now. And while doing the job, I was really enjoying it. I was working hard, traveling by ST buses to remote areas in Maharashtra, which I never even knew existed, Parbhani and Latur and all of those places. By ST buses because we didn't have cabs in those days, and traveling alone by cab for a lady executive would have anyway would have really been impossible and would have been out of the company budget, so to say. So I traveled by ST buses. The pluses were that I learned a lot about sales and marketing, dealer management, managing tough customers. And the icing on the cake was interacting with visionary leaders like Mr. Rohinton Aga, who is no more, and Mrs. Anu Aga, who subsequently became the chairperson of Thermax. Whatever it was, what definitely did work out was that it is a lot of tough work, but at the same time, I must say that what really helped was the learnings. And at the end of it, finally, when I joined IIM Ahmedabad, it was again another decision for me, because when I was about to leave Thermax and Mrs. Anuaga at that point in time got to know about it, she said, why do you want to go? You know, we are going to be able to send you to Harvard a few years later. And me, cocky old self me, I said, no, you know what, if you send me, you'll send me at age 40. By that time, you know, my whole life will be done. I want to do things now. But I do assure you, only if I get to the best of colleges will I go. Otherwise, I'm not just doing this as a passing through. I really love Thermax. And interestingly, she continued to be in touch with me even subsequently. Joining IIM Ahmedabad, of course, I was flying high, best institute in the country. And day one, the professor said, for every hour of class that you attend, you have to put in 3 hours of your own. Again, I was overconfident. I said, I've breezed through engineering. I've been a topper. I've done well. Cool, there's no problem. This was the first time I was away from home, partying hard, enjoying. Come midterms, and it all crashed. Suddenly, I was in the middle of the class. Devastated again. I said, oh my God. And then I realized that I might have thought that I was the cat's whiskers, but here there were all these other students, 200 other students, who also came from other good colleges, who had also done very well in their lives before. And here now I was at this second echelon. And so it was really a leveling and a very humbling experience, because till then you were very confident, and then suddenly you realize that, hey, here you're now amongst other equals, and at every stage this is always going to be there. You're suddenly going to be among a different set of equals. But the interesting thing again was that I refocused, got back on track, and then I managed to get back into my extracurricular activities. And another interesting thing happened in my life, and I found my future husband to be. An interesting story of two states, but the reverse story. Kaushik, who probably today looks a little bit like Arjun Kapoor, but I definitely do not look like Alia Bhatt, and I'm glad that beauty lies in the eyes of the beholder, and he was not looking for one. So long story short, at the end of the 2 years of MBA, again the next question was, so now what? What career do I choose? The most premier jobs were foreign banks, which paid the best. I somehow wanted to integrate my earlier learnings from engineering, my job at Thermax, and my dream job was the Tata Administrative Service, a very prestigious program in the private group or private sector in those days. And interestingly, again, I got to see different industries, different functions, and that had its own learning for me in life. I managed to work hard, and actually it was very hard work. It was 16 plus hours of work every day, because when you come into a prestigious program, you're in the limelight. You need to work harder to prove yourself. You prove yourself, you get the results. You get the results, you again have to prove doubly harder to show that, you know, this was not part of a nepotism, this was not part of a gender discrimination, but all of that, and it all plays up in your whole life. And all the night outs that we did in IIM Ahmedabad, I think today came to fruition, and they helped me work really hard. But even though I got the best accolades, I was awarded a Fulbright fellowship from the CII, and those were really feathers in the cap. But suddenly this roller coaster, super fast, breakneck speed ride suddenly had me in the mid-30s and realizing that there was a very important part of my life that I had not fulfilled, and that was starting a family. And that is the one thing that they don't teach you at Harvard Business School or at COEP or at IIM, as to how you're different. And suddenly you realize the body clock is ticking, and so I decided that yes, I need to have a family, and I decided to take a small break, a sabbatical, to have kids. Had kids, time to get back. Within 3 years, the company was gracious enough to give me a 3-year sabbatical for all the long years that I had put in work, and I was very grateful to them for that. And it was time for me to get back into my earlier job, and lo and behold, what happens? I discovered that my younger one, who was by then around 1 year old, suddenly started having severe bouts of asthma. And during the entire weaning process, while I would keep away from her for a few hours in the day, I almost could anticipate that by the time I get back home in the evening, she is going to be sick. And sooner or later, it started happening like that. And then on a very emotional, very maudlin note, I said, you know what, Tatas can find another me. Executives like me come a dime a dozen, but my daughter can't find another me. And so I decided to quit my job at that point in time, and then delved myself into trying to figure out everything about asthma, about allergies, alternative medicine, homeopathy, Ayurveda, all and everything. After delving myself, working hard, trying to make sure that no corner is left unturned, it was a tumultuous journey, but it was a very satisfying one, because the doctors had said she would be on steroid inhalers for about 8 to 10 years of her life. We were able to take her off those within 6 months. And that to me, I think, was the best bonus that I could have ever got in my life. The company still wanted me back after this crisis was over, but I had a time to pause to think, but now what for me? Do I want to go back to the same job? Do I want the positives of that job, which were high-flying life, corner offices, jet setting around, private jets waiting for you on the tarmac, and positions of responsibility, hobnobbing with the rich and famous? Those were the highs, good bonuses. In fact, one of my ex-colleagues had got a Land Rover by then. And these things were enticing me. On the other hand were these things of, what about my health? Because my health had taken a real beating during my corporate career too. I had no time to eat healthy. I had no time to exercise healthy. And I was not really even concerned about that at that age, I think. On the other hand, I didn't have much time for the family as well. So all of that led to this very, very crazy life. And at that point in time, I think I had to rediscover myself. And sometimes when you lose your way, you actually find yourself. So I decided that my rediscovery phase, I want to actually be CEO of myself. I looked at myself as an organization, as to what is my vision, mission, what are my dreams, hopes, and aspirations, what are my strengths, weaknesses, what are my roles and responsibilities in life. And how did I go about that process of rediscovery? I first did things which were my comfort zones. I started volunteering with all my areas of passion, which I was excited about, to see what is that overarching interest. And through an ongoing process of doing introspection, talking to friends and family, I used a couple of tools along the way which I came across. In the Japanese concept, there's something called ikigai. In the Indian concept, there is something called purusharth. In the Western context, there's something called the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. All of these helped me really figure out what is that overarching passion, what is my own vision, mission, what is it that I want to feel happy, wake up every day excited, and yet have an earning. So it's not just about excitement, but it's also about being able to be self-fulfilled in a meaningful manner, in a sustainable manner, because everything is ultimately a means to an end. And what were the outcomes? I figured out that I was very excited about education and about health. Health through my recent journeys on my experiments on myself and my daughter, and education because that is how I had been traveling along in my journey. And I want to share one interesting aspect here about this. I'm a part of the advisory board of Udaipur. IIM Udaipur. It was a new institute, and what was interesting was, how did this journey happen? It's not that they Googled and checked for Geeta Prakash. I was actually, during my volunteering phase with SPIC-McKay, we were doing a crazy amount of activities, 46 events in 15 days across 25 institutions in Pune. And one such thing led me to meet somebody who started inviting me to their college. When that individual moved to IIM Udaipur, said, I've seen your passion in education and helping develop young people. Would you be able to contribute to our organization? And that is how it started, this journey. But it is a constant rediscovery at various points in time. So in summary, I can definitely say is that life can only be understood backward. All this is wisdom in hindsight. though it has to be lived forward where you are today. And my learnings is first find your inner self by constantly challenging yourself. Work hard, not just at your work, but in your passions, in your hobbies. Focus on your health. Work hard on or discovering maybe running, maybe cycling, maybe some other interest. But constantly keep yourself channelized in that flow. That flow is extremely meditative, and you don't know what avenues might actually open up. The second learning was constantly find your inner self by removing the shackles. And those shackles can be money, it can be health, it can be relationships. When I say remove those shackles is free yourself. These things are very, very essential for life, but you can only rise above them if they are not holding you back. If you save well, if you find financial security, it releases you. If you have good health and you concentrate on it right along, it releases you to do what you really want to do. And so start saving early, and compounding is the 8th wonder of the world. And my last but not the least is always fall back on your inner strength. You all have Shakti, or the power of God in you, whether you believe in God or not. There is a power within you which is the inner you. You can find it through many things, through your own introspection, but definitely through a lot of support of friends, of family. Each one has their purpose. And through all my tumultuous journeys, I have had fantastic friends who have really propped me up at the right times, who have given me support at the right times. Family who we sometimes rebel against or who we fight. Parents at this stage for you and siblings, and at a later stage, kids. They're the ones who come back, and that gives also another full circle. So sometimes today, earlier it would be asking friends and parents for feedback. Now I'm asking my children for feedback. That's another full circle. Your teachers, your bosses, your subordinates. And you don't know who can throw what light on. All I would like to say is that the purpose, and I would iterate Peter Drucker, who's a management guru, the purpose of work on making the future is not to decide what should be done tomorrow, but what should be done today to find a new tomorrow. Wish you all the very best.